So the latest on the COVID-19 outbreak. Windsor, Essex is set to join the rest of the province in stage 3. Just after midnight, Wednesday morning.
This comes as health officials record more than 100 new cases of COVID-19 in Ontario after a full week not exceeding double digits. 115 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed over the last day, and that brings the province's total number of infections throughout the course of the outbreak to more than 40,100. No new deaths are linked to the virus, leaving that tally at 2,786. More than 36,000 cases are now considered resolved. As we draw closer to September, many Ontario families are still closely examining the province's back-to-school plans.
Ongoing concerns prompting tens of thousands to sign an online petition. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Colin DeMello is live with more details on this. Colin.
Nathan, that petition has certainly been gaining steam over the last number of days. It calls on the Ford government to rethink the back-to-school plan, especially now that parents are being asked to decide what they want to do for September. Across the province, millions of parents are now being asked to decide if their children are in or if they're out. A decision they're being asked to make now amid questions about whether children will be safe inside Ontario schools.
I'm confident, but to say I'm confident no one's going to catch the virus is just not realistic with 2 million people going back into the system, 160,000 teachers. But I do believe we have the best plan in the entire country.
But tens of thousands of parents and educators disagree with the provincial plan that would see elementary students return to class in full force. A petition to convince the government to overhaul the plan has now gained roughly 200,000 signatures.
You must make the right decision here. We cannot send our students back with a school plan that is reckless and ignores the advice of experts and the evidence that is out there.
Those who argue for change say class sizes in elementary schools should be capped at 15 students. That would require the government to spend tens of millions of dollars on additional educators. Earlier this year, the government set aside $2 billion in a rainy day reserve fund specifically for pandemic-related spending, but indicated today that money would not be spent on class sizes.
Everyone wants smaller classrooms, including myself. I fully understand. We have $30 million across the province, but especially in areas that we've seen uptick in COVID cases.
But the government says if the science changes, so too will the education plan.
The government will respond with a corresponding investment to make sure the kids are safe.
Still, critics say parents need peace of mind and that change should be implemented well before the school year begins. Premier Doug Ford also suggested today that he wasn't willing to put students in strip malls or industrial complexes just for the sake of smaller class sizes. To be clear, though, there hasn't been a single school board that has suggested putting students in strip malls as part of their return-to-school plans. Reporting live, I'm Colin DeMello. Now back to you.
Thank you, Colin. For parents in the Toronto District School Board, that decision process begins tomorrow. CTV's Scott Lightfoot is live with more on that. Scott, families should be expecting a phone call.
Absolutely, Zaretta. You know, the kids behind me probably aren't thinking about back to school right now, but you can bet their parents are. The TDSB sent out an email to parents today with the latest information on their back to school plans, and in just a few hours, starting tomorrow, they're going to begin phoning parents, try and get a sense of how many kids will be coming back to school. The board says they need to know in order to staff properly, but a lot of parents say they still haven't decided.
It's a very tough decision. It's a scary decision.
It's extremely difficult. You're basically deciding the fate of your children.
The start of school may be several weeks away, but many parents will be asked to make a decision on their plans for September within days.
So far, we're leaning towards keeping them home for the first little bit, seeing how it goes.
We have decided we will send him, but we are nervous.
Starting tomorrow, the Toronto District School Board will begin calling the parents of every child in the system to ask their intention for September. The TDSB says parents will be asked if they plan to send their children back to school under normal class sizes or if they will opt for remote learning. Parents will also be asked if they would send their children back to school if the class sizes were smaller.
You know, there's that little inner conflict. You're like, hey, you know, do I trust how they're going to do it? Is it going to be okay?
The TDSB says the province would need to provide the funding for smaller classes across the board, but if not all of the necessary funding is offered, priority would be given to reducing class sizes in areas of the city that have been hardest hit by COVID-19.
We'd like to have lower class sizes everywhere across the city. We know that this is a concern for parents, and we know it's a concern for public health.
There's a lot, maintaining physical distancing is going to be very tricky in some classrooms, and it really depends on the size of the classroom.
And regardless of whether or not they plan to send their children back to school or haven't made up their minds, parents stress they just want to be sure everyone will be safe.
It's a gamble. I mean, and there's only how many weeks left? 3 weeks or so. So, yeah, we're just hoping that everyone will be safe.
So the TDSB will begin these calls tomorrow. They will be robotic, automated calls. And the TDSB says parents will receive 1 call for every student enrolled. So if you have 3 kids in TDSB schools, you will get 3 separate calls. The board says they will make 3 attempts to contact parents over the next week. And if they cannot contact parents by phone, they will reach out by email. Reporting live, I'm Scott LIGHTFOOT. Nathan, back to you.